They laughed at her small boat, until the Coast Guard captain recognized her medal. They laughed at her tiny boat, until the Coast Guard captain noticed her medal. One glance, and everything changed. The water trembled. A vessel, impossible in size and power, rose from the depths. Every officer froze. Every system obeyed her. She wasn't just a civilian. She was the master of what no one thought could exist. And now, it has found her. She didn't expect anyone to notice when she pushed her small boat toward the Coast Guard dock. Rust streaked along the hull, the paint chipped in dozens of places, and the engine coughed like it had survived decades of neglect. She carried no insignia, no nameplate, just a lone woman in a navy jacket, hat pulled low over her eyes, and a single duffel bag slung over her shoulder. The Coast Guard crew barely looked up. They had seen visitors, hobbyists, even enthusiast sailors, like her before, people who didn't belong but somehow thought they did. "Miss, you can't tie up here," one petty officer called over the sound of seagulls and the creaking dock. "This is official business. Small crafts aren't allowed without clearance." She paused, hands on the edge of her boat, scanning the pier as if weighing her options. Her name was Rebecca Sterling. To anyone watching, she was just another civilian, another rule breaker, perhaps naive enough to think she could dock among vessels twice her size. But there was something in the way she moved, measured, deliberate, that made the younger crew members glance twice. It wasn't just confidence. It was recognition, unspoken, instinctual. "Stand back, please," the dock supervisor called again, waving a hand to keep her away from the larger cutters and patrol boats. Rebecca's eyes didn't leave the water. She didn't argue. She stepped aside a few feet, letting her boat settle against the ropes, yet her posture held a quiet readiness, a tension like coiled steel. A patrol boat, freshly painted and gleaming, was approaching the dock. Its captain, Commander Vincent Hale, a man whose reputation for rigor and discipline was well known in the Atlantic Command, squinted toward the small craft. "What's she doing here?" he muttered under his breath. "This isn't scheduled. She isn't cleared." "Some civilian, sir," one of the deckhands replied. "Looks like she's trying to sneak in her boat." Hale frowned, but before he could move closer, something subtle happened. A glint caught his eye. A small pin on her jacket, partially hidden under the collar. A bronze medallion, polished but worn, the kind awarded only once to someone whose name had been whispered among Coast Guard legends. His breath caught. "Stop her," he ordered quietly, almost to himself. "Do not let her tie up yet." The crew exchanged confused glances. No one moved fast enough to stop her. Rebecca Sterling stepped forward, her hand resting lightly on the side of her boat. Her eyes, calm but piercing, scanned the dock. The medallion caught the sunlight, reflecting a faint golden glimmer onto the wooden planks. Hale froze mid-step, recognition dawning in his gaze. His jaw tightened. He had trained for situations like this for decades, yet nothing in his experience prepared him for this moment. That small, inconspicuous medal, it marked her as a former operative, a hero whose missions had been classified, erased from public record. Yet here she was, in plain sight. "Sir, it's her," whispered the communications officer nearby, barely audible over the wind. "Who?" Hale demanded, turning sharply. Rebecca didn't answer. She simply started tying her boat, with deliberate care, her movements precise, almost ceremonial. Every knot, every adjustment, executed with the skill of someone who had spent years commanding, navigating and surviving in environments where a single mistake meant death. The dock crew, oblivious to the full truth, stepped back. But Hale's eyes never left her. The wind seemed to still around her, the gulls' cries dampened, as if the harbor itself recognized the presence she carried. "Why is he staring like that?" one petty officer whispered to another. He knows her," the other replied, voice shaky. Everyone thinks she's gone. Thought she'd retired, disappeared. Rebecca Sterling finished securing the boat. She stood upright, hands resting lightly on her hips, scanning the surrounding vessels as though calculating every possibility, every risk. The patrol boat crew, initially dismissive, shifted uncomfortably. The usually confident officers were suddenly tense. Something about her presence demanded respect, even fear. Hale's hand hovered near his radio, but he didn't call anyone over. He knew it was unnecessary. Rebecca's gaze moved toward the open water. The sun reflected off a distant shape, a shadow just beneath the surface, moving silently, deliberate. The hair on Hale's neck prickled. He knew instinctively this was no ordinary arrival. Something was coming, waiting, responding. The vessel, it's awake, she said softly, almost to herself, but loud enough for the nearest crew members to hear. Hale swallowed hard, taking a cautious step toward her. What is it? She didn't turn. Her eyes remained fixed on the horizon, where the shadow was now surfacing in slow, deliberate arcs, calm, confident, but with an intensity that chilled the sailors to their core. It's been waiting for me, Rebecca said. And now, it has found me. A low hum resonated across the harbor. Instruments on the patrol boats flickered. Radar screens pulsed with unknown readings. The shadow beneath the water rose higher, revealing a vessel unlike any the Coast Guard had seen. Sleek, black, unmarked, impossible to track with conventional sensors. Hale's voice trembled. It knows you? Rebecca's lips curved slightly, not in a smile, but in recognition of inevitability. It remembers me. Always has. The crew backed away, some scrambling for cover, some frozen. The water's surface rippled as the vessel surfaced fully, smooth and silent, its presence dominating the harbor. The medallion on Rebecca's jacket glinted again, catching the sunlight like a signal, a beacon of authority. Hale took a sharp breath. Stand back, everyone. Don't interfere. Rebecca Sterling didn't move. Her small boat rocked gently, tethered to the dock, as if it too understood that the woman at its helm was no ordinary civilian. She was the reason the shadow existed, and she alone could command what was rising now. The wind shifted. A faint mechanical voice emanated from the vessel, barely audible over the harbor noise. Primary Operative Rebecca Sterling. Authorization verified. The dock fell silent. No one spoke. The medallion gleamed brighter. The water trembled subtly, and Hale realized a truth that anchored him in place. The woman they had laughed at, dismissed, and tried to ignore, was not just a survivor. She was the master of what had come to claim her, and the harbor, the boats, the entire fleet within sight would obey her next move. The black vessel hovered silently above the harbor, its impossible bulk casting long shadows over every boat, every pier. The water rippled unnaturally beneath it, as if the ocean itself had been holding its breath. Crew members scrambled along the dock, shouting warnings, radios crackling with static. But Rebecca Sterling stood, unwavering. Her eyes never left the dark shape, the faint glow along its hull reflecting in her calm gaze. Ma'am, it's enormous, whispered Lieutenant Hale, his voice tight. It shouldn't exist. No vessel that size should be able to move like that. Rebecca didn't flinch. Her hand rested lightly on her small boat, fingers brushing the worn wood, as if grounding herself in the familiar. It was designed for one purpose, she said softly. To find me. And it has. A door on the black hull opened without sound. A seamless motion that defied hydraulics or mechanics. Mist spilled over the water, curling like living smoke. Tall figures emerged, silhouetted, featureless, moving with a precision that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. They advanced without hesitation, their movements synchronized, deliberate, as if the vessel itself controlled them. Hale grabbed her arm. "Rebecca, you don't have to—" She shook her head, eyes locked on the figures. "If I don't meet them, they'll drag the horizon down to get me." A low hum grew, resonating across the harbor and through the steel of every vessel. Instruments went haywire, compasses spun, engines shuddered, radios erupted in static. Even the horizon itself groaned, as if recognizing an authority higher than any crew aboard. Rebecca took a deep breath. "I have control. Just enough to make this right." She stepped forward onto the dock, each step deliberate, measured. The black vessel's ramp extended toward her, a perfect alignment, as though calculating each of her movements in advance. The mist swirled around her feet, yet she remained steady. Every sailor froze, some shielding their eyes, others unable to breathe, as if time itself had slowed. One of the figures raised a hand, a signal, a command. The hum shifted, modulated, like a machine recognizing its master. Rebecca stopped, lifted her own hand, and in a single motion, the vessel pulsed with a silver light, responding exclusively to her presence. Hale's voice cracked. "Rebecca, you're controlling it?" "I'm responding," she said. "It remembers me. It never forgets its operator." The figures on the ramp waited, their posture rigid, silent. The vessel's glow intensified, outlining every curve, every impossible surface, until it became clear that this was no simple craft. It was a fortress, a guardian, a weapon built for one person and one mission, her protection or her extraction. A sudden pull shook the horizon. The black vessel's gravitational wake tugged at every mooring, every line. Sailors stumbled. Decks tilted. Hale shouted for everyone to brace, but Rebecca raised her hand again, and the pull ceased instantly. The craft obeyed her. Not the Coast Guard, not the harbor, only her. Her voice rang clear, authoritative. "Step back. Do not interfere." The figures waited for her, every motion precise, every presence calculating. Rebecca took a slow step toward the ramp. "I wasn't always this civilian, you see. Once, I was something else. Something necessary. And they built this to find me, if I ever returned." The first figure extended a hand. Rebecca's eyes met it. Recognition. Completion. She stepped onto the ramp, the mist curling around her as the light engulfed her completely. Hale, frozen in disbelief, barely breathed as the ramp closed behind her. The black vessel pulsed once, twice, then sank silently beneath the waves, taking Rebecca Sterling, primary operative, master of the impossible, with it. The harbor returned to life almost instantly. The horizon's engines roared back, radios cleared, and instruments stabilized as though nothing had happened. Hale stood at the edge of the dock, staring at the empty water. She wasn't just a civilian," he muttered. "She was the reason that vessel exists. And now, she's the reason it won't stop." The sailors whispered among themselves, trying to process what they had witnessed. The small boat, now empty at the dock, bobbed gently, carrying the memory of a woman who had commanded the impossible. Hale removed his hat, running a hand over his face. The Coast Guard, the Navy. None of us were ready for this. None of us understood the scale. A faint hum lingered on the water, like a heartbeat in the depths, reminding every officer present that Rebecca Sterling was gone, but not gone. Somewhere beneath the waves, she remained in command, untouchable, the master of forces far beyond anyone's understanding. And the message was clear. No one laughed at her medal. No one doubted her skill. and no one would forget the day a small boat, a quiet woman, and a forgotten hero reminded the world that legends never truly disappear. They wait, silent, beneath the waves, until the moment they must rise.